Ojamo Kwam from Lucky Black Media. Chief Justice Mame Gertrude Tokunusaki and once and somewhere near Usia. Yaka Nan so sebi and penifo susu sedogobi or Monty sedogobi no abeno. No a year or penina a friend is Kweku Ansa Asare, were your former director of the Ghana School of Law. Ababe Kasim says, some Nako Suni in Ano. Or no, Emla Omofa a yamamia, your friend say. Gertrude Tokunu ebabe ye say Chief Justice no o kansa asem no say maami o makwakọ fa no abaso me Chief Justice of Ghana no de ensem beble beba kire say na mpanifo beble ni akanifo beble wo mo ho no ma enka wose wo mum ne fa wo mu no no na no ye ketewa no ene be fa na ye fiti prekope e de sa post ni ma no nto no de wo kan say a time to come maami Gertrude Tokunu ahwa asem be fa na say ene so wo kan ya enu nansa saade no akoso no eno na eye openina ye friend say Godfred Odame ono na enkane no na woye AG anase Attorney General ewo my Ghana mu ono so ede na no aba betum na ni say Godfred Odame ye ne ono na ejire mu a wo ka asem ne den ama eye Chief Justice Gertrude Tokunusaki aye pamuni na eno na ote sanse we no se da bi menti ase we se ase ene anaso wochina da actually says asem na ekoso no kure biye nim for propaganda nkoa ne jandam nkoa na ekoso asem na ekoso na nya no kure ada na emum mra no ano mo peso mo forso ekekire yensegu yachi na omode mra no enwaya sesebi ete ata esi apaso na omode dada ye ene ewusia wo hwese ne ye Godfred ye bo Odame a wono na ye former Attorney General MPP penso ebuofu a wo to Japan was a Chief Justice ye omuyi ni no ho a ewusia yeso anka se wotiri ho ayi we bone papa ni buofu ye pa me pese o ka me ho kwagi nchiremu ni besisi ye
Director of the Ghana School of Law and lecturer at Mancrest University, Kweku Ansasari, joins us on the line right now. I'm grateful that you could join me. This is a very, very fascinating set of events, if you may, all playing out before the court. And today, we're now just learning that Chief Justice herself have taken up a case before the Supreme Court. First of all, give me your reaction to all this.
Evans, thank you very much. Good evening. Evans, this is a very worrying, unfolding story that the Chief Justice will seek to stop a constitutional process. Now, any application to stop the process will itself be unconstitutional to the letter and spirit of Article 146. The president has not violated any of the chronological stages in the process. Therefore, it will be a very difficult task for anyone to seek to halt the process. It will simply not bite. So what the lawyers are doing at the moment, and what the Chief Justice herself has done, is to back, but cannot bite. You see, they are merely backing. Now, if the former Attorney General is the Chief Justice's lawyer, the whole thing is now turning into politics.
Forgive me, I lost you there briefly.
The NDC.
I lost you there briefly. You were giving me your assessment of the representation she now has in the passing of the
the former Attorney General, who had the most say apart from the president in the appointment of Gertrude Tokunu as the Chief Justice, will now seek to defend her. It's like he is trying to defend what he did, his own action. It changes the architecture of the entire CJ removal process that we have witnessed so far.
In what way? In what way exactly does it change the architecture?
Yeah, in the sense that one of the persons who had a hand in the appointment of the Chief Justice is now, bringing an action to sustain the action that he and the former president took is a wrong move. Number two, yes, it's a wrong move in the sense that, I mean, if the appointment of the Chief Justice then was severely criticized as, having been wrongly managed, and I was one of the persons, who shouted, loudest that the way and manner Gertrude Tokonu was appointed over and above her seniors was wrong, and that it would send wrong signals. And I remember saying that I hoped then that Tokonu would be the first and last junior justice of the Supreme Court to be catapulted onto the seat of the Chief Justice. I said so, and I also predicted that if the NPP lost power, she will be removed, merely because she was taken out of 10. But at the same time, I was quick also, to caution the Mahama administration that if we're, in the shoes of Mahama, I will have nothing to do with the petition by Professor Kwekwaza, seeking the removal of the Chief Justice, because again, to be interpreted, as coming out of a mere vendetta. That is the fact that she was appointed by Kufuor to be, the yardstick to remove her. I said so. Now, when I made those observations, I was not contradicting myself at all. What I said is what we are witnessing today. If she had not been appointed, and Paul Bafuboni, who was the most senior justice at the time, had been appointed, will not go to this rigmarole at all. The fact that she was taken out of 10 is what some of us feel that Mahama will want to right the wrong of the injustice that have been perpetrated by Nana Akufo-Addo, the government. But having said that, I shudder to think why the Chief Justice, who is the head of the judiciary, would want to halt the constitutional process the president has initiated, because the constitution constitutionally enjoins the president to do what he is doing.
Yeah, you made that point earlier, and
any provision.
Thankfully, Godfred Odame joins us now on the line. He's a former Attorney General, and he joins us now. Godfred, Ansasari is asking that question. That this is a constitutional process, and he's curious why the Chief Justice would want to set that aside.
Oh, first of all, thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to all listeners. I was planning to speak on this matter, but I was compelled to do so. The very misleading comments that had made by Mr. Ansasari, as usual. I mean, in his characteristic fashion, he misrepresented a lot of facts and a lot of dust into the eyes of the public. And I think it's appropriate that I went for record to correct some of the statement that he made. How can he say that it was a case of Justice Tokonu taken out of 10 and made Chief Justice? I mean, never in the history of this country has it been a requirement that the person who is the most senior at the bar or the most senior in the judicial architecture is the one made Chief Justice. There have been many instances of appointments of Chief Justice which necessarily have not been in terms of the most senior either at the bar or the most senior on the court. Now, presently, the number of justices who have been nominated by President Mahama, 7 of them, about 5 or 6 of them have been taken out of 10. Most of them are actually taken out of 10. It's not the most senior who have been recommended. I know many people, with all respect, that President Akufo-Addo appointed only a year or 2 ago, who are now being nominated by President Mahama to the Supreme Court. I know many that President Akufo-Addo appointed about 3 or 4 years ago, who are now being jumped over their colleagues and being nominated by President Mahama to the Supreme Court. So all these arguments are totally false and misleading to start with. Now, secondly, He made the point that it is wrong for the former Attorney General, to represent the Chief Justice. With the greatest respect, if there is any group of people who have politicized this process, it is the NDC government. Look at the band of lawyers representing the petitioners. Mr. Tashishikata, Mr. Tadosori, a lawyer who has gone on record of representing all NDC figures the past 8 years, and who very much associated with the NDC. Oliver Bakavomo, a young man who recently rose to popularity on account of all kinds of attacks against the NPP government, and who very much has been associated with the NDC, worked with President Mahama in his office, and all that. These are people who are prosecuting the Chief Justice. And I think that it's about time that good men in this country stood for what is righteous and what is right. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if there's any Attorney General who right from his appointment has stood up for the judiciary and has spoken against attacks on the independence of the judiciary, it is myself.
But Godfred, you admit though that the fact that you represent the Chief Justice now, in the same vein as you point out to Chachushikata and his relationship with the NDC, also in many people's eyes, as far as the optics is concerned, almost then aligns the Chief Justice with the MPP.
Pardon?
I'm saying
the
fact that you admit though that the fact that you now represent the Chief Justice, as far as the optics are concerned, the same way you cite Chachuchika.
Which optics? I'm citing the fact that it's a matter of principle.
I haven't finished my question. That it, in many people's eyes, it immediately aligns the Chief Justice with the MPP.
It is totally erroneous and must be corrected. It is about time that the proper thing is stood for in this country, and we cannot let people mislead the public and then let it go uncorrected. And I'm making the point that indeed the action I've taken is consistent with all actions I've taken right from the first day I was even appointed as Attorney General. I remember my inaugural speech at the Ghana Bar Association in 2021, Bogatanga. A very significant part of it was devoted to protection of the independence of the judiciary and to ensure that attacks on the independence of the judiciary, as we are witnessing now, do not occur. So indeed, what I'm doing now is very much in tune and consistent with all I've stood for.
I mean, so Godfred,
all my life. The point I'm making is that indeed it is not about just Tokunu.
But you're saying
it is not about just Tokunu at all. It is about ensuring that this unwarranted attack on the independence of the judiciary is fought off.
Yeah, I mean,
I construe all that has been happening as a very calculated effort on the part of the NDC government to attack the independence of the judiciary and shape it in the manner that they desire.
Yeah, but
and indeed, if you look at the beliefs that we...
Godfred, you are an officer of the court. You say this is an attack on the judiciary. This is a constitutional process, that the Chief Justice is currently having to contend with. This is purely constitutional. Is it
the process has been riddled with a lot of unconstitutionality. The process has been laden with grave violations of the Constitution each step of the way. In the first place, even the President's consultation with the Chief Justice, when he had not notified the Chief Justice of receipt of the petitions, was even unconstitutional. It is part of the relief we are seeking. Secondly, the manner in which the so-called prima facie determination was made was also unconstitutional. It's an affront to the Constitution. Every citizen of this country is entitled to a fair trial. This process clearly it violates every tenet of a fair trial. How can it be told the Chief Justice that yes, a prima facie case has been made against you, and that is it? There's no reason given. There's no specification of which of the allegations a prima facie determination has made, which of them prima facie determination was not made, the reasoning for it, the basis, and what have you. And these are basic rights that every citizen of the country ought to enjoy. So how can such a right be denied a person as significant as the Chief Justice of the Republic? And indeed, it was denied, as I said, because they want to clearly violate a right and railroad the process and interfere with the independence of the judiciary. I mean, so indeed, the manner in which the prima facie determination was made also constitutes a part of the relief that we are seeking.
Yeah, I mean, and fundamentally, that question will keep coming back. You said you're representing the Chief Justice only because you believe you must defend the independence of the judiciary. So you're doing this out of the abundance of a big heart, not because you have a political interest in this matter.
Absolutely. And I'm to be honest with you, Evans, I got very much offended, and indeed I deplored in serious terms when I saw the representation of the petitioners in the matters. Petitioners represented by Tado Sori, Chachichikata, and Bakavomo, heavily or dying the NDC people, and who have all along been attacking the Chief Justice. Every week before this disclosure was made, they were on radio, on internet, writing all kinds of articles and all against the Chief Justice and encouraging the process to roll on. Was it an attempt to throw dust into our eyes?
I mean, but Godfred, you cannot accuse Chachu and others of doing a political, pursuing a political interest with their representation of the petitioners. And yet, in your case, it isn't politics, but it's out of the abundance of a good heart.
Yes, and I'm saying that indeed the country ought to consider that a pure constitutional matter. If you look at the reliefs that we are seeking, they are purely constitutional. They are premised on the denial of the Chief Justice of a right to a fair trial. I think that it is improper, and indeed any citizen. I'm going on record as representing various dismissed workers and all. Not from recently, as far back as 2009 and all that. Civil servants were unlawfully selected by the John Mills and Mahama administration. Way back 2009. If you look at my record, I defended civil servants who had been unlawfully interdicted. So what I'm doing is clearly concerned with my history, and I'm saying that this whole process is unconstitutional. There must be a careful look at it, and the nation, the democratic credentials of the nation are clearly endangered by a continuation of the process.
I mean,
how can persons, with all respect, I mean, Justice Paman is one person that I respect a lot. He was actually chairman of the the Law Reform Commission Board when I was Attorney General. So I've had very good relations with him. There's nothing personal, and indeed we have very good relations. Anytime we meet and all that. But how can it be that Justice Paman will give 4 judgments in favor of one of the petitioners in the matter and be appointed as the chairman of this committee? And it is not only one matter. Apparently, it is actually two of the petitioners. He also sat on all of the cases involving the police. Officer, who is also a petitioner in this matter. So clearly, the whole process is really all kinds of unconstitutionality and leading with people who are afflicted by conflict of interest.
But Godfred, I have a curiosity. Today, when the other case was called, the Chief Justice was represented by another lawyer. So how come you get to represent her in this matter? How did this happen? Did she reach out to you and procure your services, or you offered to her pro bono?
So this development clearly tells you that the Chief Justice is exercising her right to counsel. The Chief Justice has a right to counsel on every occasion and in respect of every matter. So she called you to appoint counsel for each case, and it cannot be that because she's Chief Justice, she's divested of that right.
No, I mean, I'm just curious. So she called you?
You want me to disclose lawyer-client confidentiality?
No, that's not lawyer.
A lawyer with all respect over 22 years at the bar wants me to disclose you when I met my client and what have you?
That is not lawyer-client.
I think
it's not lawyer-client confidentiality. So did she reach out to you?
Is that the most important point here, with all respect, is that there's an issue of grave unconstitutionality which borders on an interference in the independence of Ghana's judiciary. The whole nation, the whole international community and whatever you should be concerned about how Ghana, a nation with strong democratic credentials, all of a sudden stand the risk of having those credentials eroded on account of an unbridled desire to remove the Chief Justice unlawfully from office.
Yeah, I mean, Godfred, you make that point earlier, but I'm so curious because of what we saw in court today, that she was represented by another lawyer. In this case, did she reach out to you?
I mean, that is their right. I'm saying that's their right to employ lawyers for any case that she's involved in.
Yeah, but
why?
But why?
I'm not about to question why the Chief Justice employed a different lawyer for a case in court today and engaged me for another case that she filed on the same day. I cannot prove that at all.
So why Godfred Dame, the former Attorney General, who definitely was the president's chief legal advisor at the time when the president nominated her? You definitely would have been consulted in the matter.
I am saying that everything I am doing in this country now is very much consistent with all I have done all my life, as well as all that I did in the course of my tenure as Attorney General. And indeed, if you take a careful look at all my speeches since I was made Attorney General on 5th March 2021, there was never any occasion on which I made a major public speech without addressing the question of independence of the judiciary.
Yeah, but
so it's a matter that is very dear to me.
But in the case of the Chief Justice, it's slightly different, is it not? The Nana Akufo-Addo nominated her. I believe it will be fair to assume that in doing so, you would have had a hand, or you may have been consulted in her nomination, and now she is a subject of a legal constitutional process that may lead to her removal, and you now become the lawyer for her. Clearly that's the point that Ansasari is making, that you have an interest, and that is why you've jumped to her defense. You're doing this because she was an appointee nominated by a man who appointed you yourself, and this is you now protecting your interest at the Supreme Court.
Which interest am I protecting in this matter? The persons who are protecting their interest in this matter, we all know. The president and all the members. I mean, if there's a clear case of conflict of interest, I would think that it's been pointed out on arrest of summons. The fact that the person who has given judgment in respect of two of the petitioners now all of a sudden finds himself adjudicating as the chairman of a committee that has been set up to probe the Chief Justice. That is the clear case of conflict of interest, and not the fact that the former Attorney General is relevant to the Chief Justice. I think these are the matters of grave that should be of grave concern to the nation. Was the president unaware that this development had occurred before he was setting up his committee? And if these matters have been brought to his attention, I think you ought to ask the Attorney General what he is doing about them. And not me. I'm not the Attorney General now.
Okay. And sorry, he has a fair point there, does it not? That as far as the points you made, the precedent shows that you don't need to be the most senior on the bench to become the Chief Justice, and that this is not him doing a political job. He's simply defending the interest of the judiciary when it comes to its independence.
Yes. You see, at a glance, that position, may be taken and supported at a glance, carefully. But the Constitution in Article 146(4) says that before a substantive office holder is appointed, the person the president shall consider is the one who is the most senior of the justices of the Supreme Court. So that, reading deep meaning into that provision, it stands to reason that if the operators of the Constitution were minded to do the right thing, it is the most senior justice of the Supreme Court who shall always be appointed to fill the vacancy whenever it does occur. Now, just to throw a little more light on what my good friend Godfred said, is leading the public. Now, at the time her ladyship Tokonu was elevated to the citadel of the Chief Justice, the outgoing Chief Justice was Eni Yeboah, and immediately beneath Eni Yeboah was Paul Bafu Boni, followed by Sule Badigbe, then by the Akuto Bamfo, who was to retire in February 2019, then Anthony Afrebeni, Yapel, Gabriel Poama, in that order, and then blah 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 to Alfred Lovelace Johnson before Gertrude Tokonu. So there were as many as 12 in front of her. And if I say that she was taken out of 10, that's what I meant. That she wasn't, the most senior justice of the Supreme Court at the time that Eniebua was to retire, and at the time that Godfred Odame and former President Kufuor considered Gertrude Stokonu's position as chief, considered Gertrude Stokonu for the position that is, no one can quarrel with that.
Okay.
He was not amongst, the first four.
Okay. Quick answer, sorry. Thank you very much, Godfred Odame. I'm grateful both of you for joining us on this. And make of that what you will. Send me a WhatsApp of your thoughts on the 05511119997. George, you have business.
Well, Evans, coming up, Bank of Ghana commences comprehensive review of its monetary policy framework as the regulator takes fresh measures to firmly contain inflation. And economist Professor John Gachi and Dr. John Kwache and two others joined the Bank of Ghana as advisors to the governor of the Bank of Ghana. The